Okay, everybody. Hope you saw part A. So on the screen, basically, she was on a dating app, and it wasn't as if they had some type of long-term relationship. Okay, she unfriended him one day, and then her unaliving happened the next.
County judge sentenced Antonio Wilson to serve life without the possibility of parole for malice murder. She unfriended Antonio Wilson the day before she died. Senior ADA Nalda Charles says text messages show Wilson couldn't handle Thomas's rejection towards him before strangling her inside of her Roswell apartment. My sister was attacked and murdered in her home. Investigators discovered Thomas and Wilson had only dated briefly after meeting on a dating app. Attorneys say after Thomas rejected his advances, he found where she lived and attacked her in her home. It was a surprise attack. She did not know her attacker was coming that morning. Sure.
So he found out where she lived, attacked her in the home. They dated briefly. It wasn't like it was an ongoing relationship. Here are some posts, and I guess it's between the two of them. It says, I don't give a blank about a ring. Keep your ring. I'm not your woman, never was. Stop claiming me because I never claimed you. So after a few dates, he comes with a ring. After a few dates, he shows up with a ring. And she lets him know she doesn't give a blank about his ring. I'm not your woman. So obviously, some people have a crazy gene. I think in his mind, a few days. Oh, she's mine. Here's a ring. Not all women are like desperate to get married. Sorry to disappoint you. And maybe that's what he thought. I'm gonna give her a ring. It's gonna win her over. Dude, she's not interested. Then it has one here. Um, Fabiola Thomas. I'm assuming this is her. That says, "You crazy. I don't want nothing from a man I barely communicate with. Jewelry, money, etc. don't mean nothing to me if you don't know who I am." So it sounds like to me he might be the kind, as they say, have a fairy tale relationship, get fixated on someone, and oh, that's mine. That's what it sounds like to me. A fairy tale relationship, or it's a relationship that's one way. She says, "You crazy. I don't want nothing from a man I barely communicate with." So if she barely communicates with, why the hell you come up with a ring? Again, fixed on this woman. Crazy mental. So he finds out where she lives and then strangles the woman. Who does that? And who does that so quickly? Who does that so quickly? See, it makes me want to, man, you check out, and they didn't mention in the news report. This has, it's to me, it just screams DV. If this guy has a history of DV, it wasn't mentioned in the report. Let me listen, put this again.
Reached a guilty verdict in 30 minutes after seeing crime scene photos and hearing from Thomas's roommate who found her body lying in a tub. She only met him in public places. She would even meet him outside of friends' houses in parking lots. So it is very scary because Ms. Thomas did everything that you would, want to do. Wilson showed very little remorse during that sentencing. He declined speaking or giving any statements during Tuesday's hearing.
So he probably showed a little remorse because guess what? This is who he is. This guy, it wasn't mentioned, but he probably has a history of DV. Who just does this on a dating app? Meeting him in public places. It makes me wonder if he may have saw her vehicle and got her license plate, but it's the license plate, and then that could have been how he found out where she lived. And then you may say, wow, maybe next time use a friend's car. But then he may find out what that person is. It's just you can't avoid. It's just so hard to date this day and age. To be honest with you, not saying this happens a lot, but man, who wants to be that one story you hear about? Who wants to be that one story that you hear about? She turned him down, and he couldn't take the rejection. Meet him in public, and then comes to her place and strangles her. She unfriended him or whatever, blocked him one day, and was unalive the next. She said, "You crazy. I don't want nothing from a man I barely communicate with." So I guess he thought he was going to show up with some trinkets and she was going to jump for joy. Jewelry, money, etc. don't mean nothing to me if you don't know who I am. He didn't even get a chance to really know the lady. She's pretty. Oh, I claim you. And trust and believe. If she had been gullible, if any woman had been gullible or maybe, checking for him and, continue with a relationship or going in that manner, for him to do this, it would probably more than likely just take one argument for the crazy to come out. So something happened in the communication. Maybe it's coming too forward. I mean, you don't really know her. It's been a couple of dates. You haven't even been to her home. He had to find out where she lived. They're meeting in public places. And for him to do this. So what I want to know about some other women that may have been in his life in the past, that's what I want to know. In the past. There has got to be a DV case somewhere. Or some woman who has suffered DV, domestic violence at the hands of this man, and just hasn't reported it. But who just does this? You can claim her all you want. She's not interested. She said you're crazy. And he probably knows he's crazy. And that craziness came out. So this day and age, I mean, it's just hard to date. This one lady went on a date, one date, first date, met with a guy. She met him at the restaurant. It was Dusty Dan. I guess we'll call him the brick throwing man. She went on a date, Dusty Dan. They met at a restaurant. It wasn't vibing. They weren't vibing together. She wasn't really interested. They weren't hitting it off. There's nothing there. There was no interest. She didn't say anything out of the way. Neither party did. But she was like, well, basically it was like it was time to end the day, and she's ready to go. They left separately, and I think he may have asked her, like, maybe we could do this again. And I think it pretty much got to the point where it was like she kind of let him know nicely that, well, she just something to think about, maybe not. Yeah. So correction, yeah. Her thing was, maybe it's not a good idea. She was nice to the dude from what I saw. What do you think happened? She drove home. He must have followed her from the restaurant. Again, first date. Met at a restaurant. What do you think happened? Next thing you know, she drives home to her house, parks her vehicle. As she was walking up the sidewalk to her front door, Dusty Dan, the brick throwing man, took up, he followed her there. He picked up like a paver from her front yard and excuse me, he picked up a paver and started bashing her in her head with it, beating her with the paver. Beat her so she survived. He beat her in her head, and he was just beating her, I guess, all over because she ended up in the hospital, head bandaged up. Ladies and gentlemen, not just her head. I guess he was trying to beat all over her body. Her arm and leg were like in a sling thing in the hospital bed. Elevated. So it makes me wonder the way she was beat. So maybe he thought he left her for dead. But they met at a restaurant first day, and he follows her home and grabbed the brick from, I guess, where her, I guess, some shrubs, something was located in her front yard, and just beat her with the brick senselessly. She ended up in the hospital, bandaged up. I mean, the kind of bandaged up, you're not coming home in the next 2 days. You're going to be there for a moment. Head bandaged up, arm elevated, got it hanging up and all taped up, leg taped up. One leg was okay, one leg was not. Head, arm, and one head, arm, and leg bandaged up. And looking at that, I'll never forget it. It's like, wow, she might be there for a week or so. Then she might need rehabilitation. Rehab. I mean, seriously. One date. And luckily and of course, it was on a dating app. So can you imagine? Imagine some woman probably liking his or whatever, his profile, and then you look up on the news. Uh-oh, that's that guy. That's the guy on the dating app, and that's the guy on the news facing charges because he attacked a woman after the first date. So she must have picked up crazy in him again. This communication right here tells a lot. I don't give a blank about a ring. Keep your ring. I'm not your woman. Never was. Stop claiming me because I never claimed you. One track man. Oh, but I claimed you. This ain't cave that you just pick some woman and that's it. It has to be a two-way street of interest. She said, "You crazy." So that morning, she had no idea. Probably thinking you're safe because you haven't brought the person to your home. She had no idea. Just probably caught her by surprise. Can you imagine? She probably just shocked. Judge sentenced Antonia Wilson to serve life without the possibility of parole for malice murder.
She unfriended Antonia Wilson the day before she died.
Senior ADA Nalda Charles says text messages show Wilson couldn't handle Thomas's rejection towards him before strangling her inside of her Roswell apartment.
My sister was attacked and murdered in her home.
Investigators discovered Thomas and Wilson had only dated briefly after meeting on a dating app. Attorneys say after Thomas rejected his advances, he found where she lived and attacked her in her home.
This was a surprise attack. She did not know her attacker was coming that morning.
Jurors reached a guilty verdict in 30 minutes after. Good. Can you imagine? I wonder if she opened the door or maybe looked at the people and thought, hey, what are you doing here? Lesson learned. Somebody you on a date and you haven't given them your address. If you're inside your apartment, look through the peephole inside your home. Look through the peephole. Don't even have a conversation. You have not given this person your address, but they showed up. That's a sign right there. Look through the peephole. If they're showing up, don't even engage in any conversation. Look through the peephole. Don't say anything. Call 911. Don't even engage. Like, what are you doing here? How'd you get my address? You haven't given them lesson learned. If you haven't given them the address, anything like that, you see them at your location, at your home, and you have not invited them, anything of that nature, all you need to go ahead and do is quietly call 911. Don't even open the door. Because it makes me wonder, when he showed up, did she open the door like, hey, what are you doing here? And then he busts his way in, and is that what happened? Don't even engage. Anyway, just horrifying. I mean, we're at a point in time where it's just too dangerous to date. Because you just don't know when you're going to come across some cuckoo clock. Anyway, let me know what you all think. Thanks for watching. Feel free to comment, like, subscribe, and share them out.